One man ran. 5 families disappeared. The soldiers did not chase him. They went to his village instead. They arrived at sunrise when the mist still hung low over the fields. There was no shouting, no urgency. They moved with the calm of people who already knew the outcome. The first door opened. Inside, a woman was cooking. An old man sat near the entrance, half awake. Neither of them had time to ask what was happening before they were pulled outside. No explanation. Then the next house, and the next. 5 households. Neighbors who had lived side by side for years. People who had shared tools, borrowed grain, argued, and returned to ordinary life. Now they stood together, bound by something they could not see. The charge was simple. One man had fled conscription. He was gone. But the law did not follow him. It stayed behind. In Qin, households were organized into groups of 5. It was not just administration, it was a system of shared responsibility. If one person committed a crime, the others were required to report it. If they failed, they were punished as if they had taken part. No one asked whether they knew. No one asked whether they had helped. They were connected. That was enough. At the county office, the process was fast. A clerk read names from a bamboo register, each tied to the same entry. 1 crime, 5 households. The sentences came immediately. Some were assigned to Chengdan. They would be sent north to build defensive walls. Heavy labor, iron restraints, cold wind. Survival was uncertain. Return was rare. Others were marked as Gishin, sent into the mountains to cut timber. Endless work, little food. Most would not last long. Some were taken away without explanation. By midday, the village had changed. 5 households were gone. The man who ran was never found. But the punishment had already reached everyone else. If you think this only applied to villagers, you would be mistaken. In the capital, the same logic existed. Only the scale was different. A man once stood at the center of power. His name was Lao Ai. He had risen quickly, gaining rank, land, and authority. His residence was large, guarded, and filled with quiet movement. Then he made a decision. He attempted to seize power. The attempt failed almost immediately. He was captured, executed. That part ended quickly. What followed did not, because now attention shifted, not to him, but to everyone connected to him. The lists were already prepared. They began with his father's family, every branch tied through that line, then his mother's family, then his wife's family, then his children. At first, people thought it would stop there. It did not. The names continued. Households linked through marriage. People who had served him. People who had worked in his residence. Servants, guards, attendants. A young servant stood among them. He had arrived only months earlier. He knew nothing of politics. He had never spoken directly to Lao Ai. He carried water, opened doors, and stayed out of sight. When his name was called, he didn't move. For a moment, he believed it was a mistake. He shook his head almost instinctively. "I've never even spoken to him," someone nearby said. No one responded. Another man tried to step back, as if distance might matter. A soldier pulled him forward. The list did not change. The servant looked around. The man beside him was being taken. The man behind him was being taken. Then he understood. He was not being judged for what he had done. He was there because he'd been there. That was enough. But the list did not stop at the residence. They moved outward. Names of people who had visited. Names of people who had once received favors. Names of those who had spoken with him, even briefly. Then further, people who had delivered goods once. People who had worked nearby. People who had only been seen entering the gates. Each name led to another. Each connection revealed more. Someone asked where it would end. No one answered, because there was no boundary. At the office, decisions were quick. Some were executed immediately, others lost everything. Property confiscated, status erased. They were sent away, to border regions, to labor camps, to serve as state slaves. The servant received no explanation, only a designation, associated. Days later, the residence stood empty, doors open, rooms silent. Nothing remained. The official record would later summarize it in a single sentence. Thousands were executed, but it did not show how the names were called, or how far the lists reached, or how many people realized too late why they were there. Years before all of this, there was a man who made such a system possible. His name was Shang Yang. He believed a state should function with precision. People should be registered. Households should be organized. Responsibility should be shared. He formalized collective punishment, 5 households bound together. He strengthened laws that required people to report each other. If you saw a crime and said nothing, you were guilty. If you hid someone, you were guilty. Silence became a form of participation. It was a system where people watch each other before the state needed to. The system worked. It made control efficient. Years later, Shang Yang lost power. The system remained. He did not. He ran. At night, he reached an inn. A single lamp was still burning. "I need a place to stay," he said. The innkeeper looked at him. "Documents?" He had none. The innkeeper shook his head. "I can't take you." Not because he recognized him, but because the law was clear. To shelter someone without registration was a crime. And not just for him, for everyone connected to him. The refusal was calm, certain. The door closed. Shang Yang stood outside for a moment. Then he turned and walked back into the dark. He was captured soon after. This time the law was applied to him. He was executed by being torn apart by chariots, a punishment reserved for the gravest offenses against the state. His body was pulled apart, his name erased, his family punished. The system did not stop. It did not change. It did not recognize who he had been. It simply continued. One man ran, 5 families disappeared, 1 man fell, thousands followed, and the man who designed the system found that it had no exceptions, not even for him. In that world, actions mattered, but connections mattered more. Because once your name was tied to someone else, your fate was no longer your own. If you want to hear more strange but true stories from Chinese history, subscribe to Imperial Absurdity.